To install Federator.ai, download the installation script from GitHub and execute it on a Kubernetes node. Enter the Federator.ai version number and the destination directory to start downloading the software. After the software is downloaded, choose the default options to install on Kubernetes. The default namespace is Federator.ai. Confirm that the information on the screen is correct to continue the installation. When prompted, enter the storage information and how you plan to access the Federator.ai UI and API. Confirm the choices to complete the installation. Notice that the default login ID and password to access the Federator.ai UI is both admin. Now log in to Federator.ai from a web browser with the default login ID and password. During the initial login, a setup wizard will guide you through the initial configuration process. You will need to provide a new admin password for future logins. Enter the name of the first cluster you want to manage, which can be a Kubernetes cluster or a VM cluster. Federator.ai supports different metric data sources for clusters being managed. Choose the right metrics data source for the cluster and the necessary information to access your metrics data source. Click the Test Connection button to ensure information is entered correctly. For the Kubernetes cluster, if you know what information you want to monitor, you can enter the application information. Otherwise, you can skip this step at this time. You can always configure which applications to monitor later. Review all the information entered and click Apply to finish the initial configuration. Spend or provision enough resources to maintain application performance. After finishing the initial setup wizard, it will take about a couple minutes before the initial cluster information and metrics are collected. From the UI, select Configuration and Clusters to view the status of the first cluster. When the status changes from Not Available to Monitoring, Federator.ai has successfully retrieved cluster information and metrics from its metric data source. To configure a Kubernetes application to be monitored by Federator.ai, select the Kubernetes Applications tab and click the Add icon to add an application. Enter the Kubernetes controller information for this application and click Save to finish the configuration. You should now be able to see the status of the cluster on the dashboard. Metrics from the cluster and the application are collected periodically, and after a few hours, you should be able to see the workload prediction results on the dashboard. Start a free trial today and see how Federator.ai can help your Kubernetes deployment.